What's good, Custer Compton family? It's your boy Trillblack. I got my overalls on today, but I'm not farming. I'm standing in front of a wheat field. Again, I'm not farming, I promise you. But that's because I'm in a town called Finedon today. And I'm here with a up-and-coming YouTube content creator called Home When I'm Not. Check out his channel, go over to him. He's got some great content coming through, and hit subscribe on his page. But I'm here with him today to investigate a historical figure known as William Dolben. William Dolben, you probably never heard about him before. In fact, I guarantee you've never heard about him before. But this guy was the first. When we're talking about abolitionist movement in the United Kingdom, this guy was the first, before William Wilberforce, before all of the popular names that people know about, okay? And we're close, we're a few minutes walk away from where he's buried. You're gonna find out why this guy is so important later on. But we're gonna head over to where he's buried, the church where he's buried, and we've been given special access to his actual crypt. Where he's buried, where his wife is buried, where his whole family is buried. We're going to be going down into the actual mausoleum with his grave as close as we can get to his grave. And we'll fill you in on more of the important information about this guy as we go along. Custer Compton, I'm out. Nature knows no color line, said a great man. This is proof. Welcome, Custer Compton family, to the story of a man time forgot, a giant on whose shoulders giants would stand. Our story begins in the sleepy English village of Finedon, a town where you would hardly expect much epic history. Northamptonshire's towns and boroughs are home to many epic stories, from Guy Fawkes' gunpowder plot to the Battle of Naseby Field, where Cromwell crushed the Royalists. Finedon, formerly Tingdean, a most discreet and noiseless English suburb in the county of Northamptonshire, is no different. It was here that a forgotten hero of the English abolitionist movement lived and died.
This story is about a Sir William Dolben, 3rd Baronet. Do you know what a baronet is? It's one above a knight, but one below a baron. It's a hereditary title. So if you earn a baronetcy, when you die, your oldest legitimate son becomes 2nd Baronet. So he was 3rd in line. This guy wasn't just a little bit privileged. He didn't just have a successful dad. He had a successful dad, successful granddad, and a successful great-granddad, and maybe even the one before that. So this guy was quite lucky. He could have taken advantage of his position, but the choices he made in life are exactly why this unknown person deserves to be known again. So stick around, you're in for a good story. From Kush to Compton, make sure you press subscribe. First came John Dolben. He was an Archbishop of York. Although not a baronet himself, the patriarch earned status that helped to elevate the family name, opening the doors for the future accomplishments of his family. Then came Sir Gilbert Dolben. In Ireland, he served as a judge. ranking as high as Chief Justice of the Court of Common Pleas, one of the highest judicial positions under the Crown in Ireland. He supported the Whigs and used his influence to uphold Protestant English interests in the island, maintained royal authority after the Glorious Revolution and during the Jacobite threat. Many judges who upheld Protestant succession and English control were rewarded. At this point in history, baronetcies were not rewarded for heroics, but for loyal service, strategic influence, and integration of elite families into the ruling structure, especially in Ireland, which was still politically unstable, leading to him becoming the first Baronet of Finedon. Next up was Sir John Dolben, named after his grandfather, the Archbishop. The second baronet was a conservative custodian, meaning he lived a quieter and less public life than his descendants, played more of a landed gentleman's role, managing family estates and maintaining status in Northamptonshire's society. During his life, the estates flourished, helping to fund the elite education of his son, Sir William Dolben. William Dolben received a prestigious education from Westminster School to Christ Church, University of Oxford. There's no records of his degree, because at the time, Oxford would educate on a wide array of information, instead of tightly defined degrees. His curriculum would have likely included classical languages like Latin, possibly Greek, rhetoric and oratory, moral and natural philosophy, covering ethics, politics, law, and aspects of natural science.
In 1768, he became the MP for Oxford University. The university used to count as a constituency, but after just 1 month, he decided he wanted to be the MP for Northamptonshire. So he came back here and he won the seat for Northamptonshire.
We're visiting St. Mary the Virgin Church in Finedon. Although 700 years old, this beautiful church was built on the foundations of an even older Anglo-Saxon church, meaning it would have been a smaller, simpler church before 1066. Its monks would have been the architects and stonemasons. They used the foundations, stone blocks, and walls to erect the church as it is now. Excavations found Saxon-era graves indicating this site was a place of Christian burial before the Norman conquest. It has an impressively beautiful strainer arch, built to resist the inward pressure of the eyelashes. The bosses on the ceiling display faces known as the green men, with foliage coming out of the mouth, representing rebirth, renewal, fertility, and the power of nature. Although originally a pagan symbol, some churches use them to blend nature-based belief with new religious ideas. The green man is seen as a forest spirit, guardian, and a reminder not to forget our roots in nature. They have a 300-year-old free manual organ with no pedal board. It was originally constructed for and placed at Windsor Castle, then moved to Finedon, likely due to connections with the Dolben family. After 6 years of being MP for Northamptonshire, he went back to an uninterrupted 26-year-long term as MP at Oxford University. It was during this time his most important abolitionist work happened. Dolben went to London to inspect a slave ship. He wanted to be able to see what is, not what they show you. Slavery was known about, but hearing about it, knowing about it, was not the same as seeing it with your own two eyes. He wasn't desensitized to what he witnessed. From that day, he vowed to make a change. Right now, we're going into the tomb, and thank you for the church for allowing us to do this.
It's not so bad. Hello, it's your boy Trillblack, and I'm here with Home When I'm Not. And we're at the tomb of Sir William Dolben. He's more than a sir, actually, wasn't he? He was a baron. And this is where he's buried, and a whole load of the rest of his family. It's just weird and eerie. It's amazing because you got these you got his his family's coffin, 4 or 5 of them just stacked up on top of each other under this thing, and if you look closely you can even see the last of them is like this far off. The church warden was just telling me it's like this far away from the great hair, or the grill. And yeah, I've never been in a crypt before. I've never been this close to just dead bodies before. Bunch of them. Mr. Speaker, I rise today not as a politician, but as a man who has seen with his own eyes the brutal consequences of a trade we dare to call commerce. I have recently boarded a slave ship, a vessel not of transportation, but of torment. And I must speak plainly, for there is no civility in cruelty, no gentleness in what I witnessed. Below deck the enslaved are packed in so tightly they have less than 18 inches of headroom. Shackled together in rows, they cannot stand, they cannot stretch, they cannot breathe without brushing the skin of another suffering soul. There is no privacy, Mr. Speaker. Men, women, and children crammed together in a darkness so foul it chokes the senses. The stench is unbearable. Buckets meant for human waste overflow and go unemptied. The floors are slick with vomit, blood, urine, and excrement. The air itself, thick with ammonia and death, burns the lungs. Disease is rampant. Dysentery, smallpox, scurvy, and the flux claims lives daily. It is not uncommon for 15 to 20% of the enslaved to perish before reaching land. And those who survive? They are not unscathed. Many bear wounds, raw, open, festering, from shackles, from whips, from forced restraint. I heard testimonies of beatings so savage they rendered men unconscious, of women who endured the vile abuses of crewmen, unprotected, unheard. There is no hope below those decks. Some have attempted to leap into the sea, preferring death to this hell. Others refuse food, and I am told of the barbaric practice of forced feeding, mouths pried open, dignity torn away. I heard too of mutinies, of resistance crushed beneath violence, of punishments so cruel they cannot be repeated without shame. These ships are not built for the transport of human beings. They are engineered for profit alone. Platforms and wooden shelves are stacked tier upon tier. Ventilation is nearly non-existent. The air does not circulate. Many suffocate where they lie. And what of medical care, Mr. Speaker? On some ships there is no surgeon at all. And where there is one, he is overwhelmed, indifferent, or ill-equipped. It is not healing that rules these voyages. It is suffering. Let it be known what I saw was not a cargo hold. It was a floating grave, a tomb for the living. We must no longer turn our heads and pretend this trade can be regulated by profit, justified by law, or shielded by distance. We are complicit, and our silence is a stain upon this house and upon the soul of this nation. I urge you, let this not be delayed. Let it not be debated into forgetfulness. Let action follow witness. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So from the Dolben Act, you've got a few things that were intended to start chipping away at the slave trade. So I've got a few quotes here from the Act. It is now illegal for anyone to hinder the process of counting the number of slaves on a vessel. Any obstruction would result in £100 fine. That's big money back then, and if you convert it to today, it's £13,000. They say these things are adjusted for inflation, but actually, if you deep it even further, the money, it could actually buy much more back then. From the research I've done, when I've had to convert some of these currencies. But then you've also got from the Dolben Act, shipmasters and surgeons with experience were installed on the ships, and only competent shipmasters and surgeons with experience are now allowed to make the journey, and as per the Dolben Act. And then also the Act introduced mortality incentives, so basically things to incentivize these traders to actually treat the human cargo like human beings rather than cargo. Okay, so you've got things like shipmasters being paid £100 bonus and ship surgeons £50 if less than 2% of the slaves died. So that's a big incentive to make sure these human beings make the journey. These black brothers and sisters make the journey across the Atlantic, at least in one piece, you know? Again, these are things that, from my perspective anyway, and a lot of people who study these things will tell you that they were meant to, in practice, start making this business difficult. As a man couldn't just rock in there and end the whole thing single-handedly on his own. So whilst we're looking at it like, what does that do? What's the point? You know, back then, this is a big deal. This is a big deal to try and make sure that this whole thing gets chipped away at. And that's what William is doing, coming from this background. That's what he's trying to do. And it works. It's working. It's laying the groundwork for what's going to come later with people like William Wilberforce. He also adds a clause, and this clause says that it has to be, the act has to be renewed annually or reviewed annually for any amendments. But I think I'm gonna add some more to this. I'm gonna go away and do my research on this. But I think, if I know what I know about how these things tended to work back in the day, that was a way of making sure that you keep an eye on the loopholes. What loopholes are traders and these companies, some of them, Barclays, shout out to Barclays, Barclays Bank today was massive in the slave trade. You're not gonna get away from me. But Barclays Bank, these are incentives because you got names like Barclays, the Barclays family, with lawyers who are gonna pour over like they do today these acts and try and find ways out of it. These are this clause to review the act really is a way of inspecting and seeing, okay, what ways are people trying to get around the acts now? All right, let's get a new let's add a new clause to the act.
Unfortunately, in the Dolben Act, there was flaws in the legislation, loopholes, and anyone under 4'4" was classed as a child. And because they had to use the sizes of people to word this legislation, it was manipulated by slave traders in a way that you were allowed to have 5 people per 3 ton of cargo, but it would only class as 4 people if it was 5 people under the height of 4'4". So they started targeting children more, these human traffickers, which we don't actually know, and I guess we'll never know. It could mean that more children ended up being transported and brought into this, but the overall number of people, because of the way they were only able to bring so much less people on the slave ship, the overall number of people may have been less. Maybe they built more boats. Maybe it ended up with them being able to bring less people over. So maybe less children were affected, but it may have been more children that were affected by this greed.
So again, the change isn't nowhere near what it has to be. You just need to end this whole thing. And but what's important about it is that you got someone out of the blue, lone voice, actually trying to undermine the system. Undermine the system, make it impractical. And at the end of the day, it is part of what, shout out to my brothers and sisters in Haiti, shout out to my brothers and sisters across the Atlantic, who are constantly rebelling and making this whole thing impractical. It's part of the groundswell of things that makes the British Empire say, okay, look, we're just going to part this. But yeah, man, shout out to my boy William Dolben. That's a picture. That's a painting. I don't know if you can see it, but in the middle is his great, maybe grandfather or something from like the 1600s who fought in the Civil War against Cromwell, and we all know who Cromwell was.
But loopholes were always going to be manipulated. And luckily, there was more people fighting against slavery in different ways, especially in Northamptonshire. And so much of this history is not known about. So if you'd like to see us make more episodes about other people together, make sure you let us know. Here is the marble with engraving for Sir William Dolben. I'm assuming that he put this in place, had it made, or maybe it was already here and he took its place. But it's included not just his family, but his servants. So it shows how this guy appreciated everyone, no matter who they were or what their position was.
Here are deposited the remains of Sir William Dolben, Baronet, who died 20th March 1814, aged 87. After death, the judgment. And it says, the Christian spirit of this truly excellent man led him to desire that the above only might be written on his tomb, and therefore an affectionate family are reluctantly silent as to his character. So he doesn't even want, sounds like he doesn't even want like a big fanfare about who he was or what he did, but like from what our research shows, this was an exceptional person, an exceptional man. But on his tombstone, he doesn't even want any of that. But he's devoted a lot for his family and his relatives. You know, that's pretty cool.
All records of him and his speeches in Parliament and his work that is done, because this was from before Parliament used to take records on everything that was said inside. Everything about him is third-party accounts dug up in history through other people's records, their books, their diaries, their scripts. He has tried to be forgotten in history. But thankfully, he hasn't.
From Kush to Compton, it's been your boy Trillblack, and with Home When I'm Not. Yeah, check him out. Check him out on his channel, Home When I'm Not. Subscribe to him. Click and like this video and all that good stuff. Again, it's your boy Trillblack, all the way from Kush to Compton, and we're out. Peace.
Next time you drive through Finedon, remember, this is not just a small town and a waypoint between the bigger towns. There's so much history here that none of us know about.
From the High Sheriff of Northamptonshire to the verderer of Rockingham Forest. The story of how a man born into privilege used that platform to challenge the horrors of the slave trade. Although a Tory by background, he never followed the party. He always supported what he felt was morally or constitutionally right. This was not his only work. While he regularly spoke out about corruption in Parliament, exposing those buying or selling seats, joining other reformists in ending the widespread use of bribery, he would pay sick pay out of his own pocket to Finedon's local community. He consistently supported tenant farmers and local agricultural communities. There's more information in the video description about how he did all of these. Luckily, he was not the only person against slavery. Northamptonshire was full of abolitionists, and he had raised his son to be a good person too. But by 1837, the Dolben baronetcy became extinct after William's son, John English Dolben, passed away with no male heir. Parts of the estate were sold off or passed through marriage. Today, Finedon Hall has been converted into apartments. But as time makes things be forgotten, I'm glad to have been part of the team that immortalized this man, who is a clear example to the rich and powerful. And nice clothes and flash cars are never remembered, but meaning and purpose lives on forever.